Okay, Rabbi, we're good.
All right, Boker Or Rabotai. We're in Parashat Teruma. And we're going to be in Mishkan-related Parashiyot, practically to the end of the book of Shemot. Shemot is called Sefer HaGeulah. That's what the Ramban calls it. Sefer HaGeulah, for good reason. The primary event that takes up the first half of the book is the Exodus of Egypt, and which is the key. However, one may question then, what does Sefer HaGeulah have to do with the building of the Mishkan? I would have put it probably in the book of Vayikra. Vayikra is more korbanot, the technicalities of the service and things like that, although it would make Vayikra much longer than it already is. I don't think they were doing it just to keep the Sefarim, equally balanced. No difference how long a Sefer is. Sefer Torah has the same weight, no matter how you. So then the question then is, what is it doing here? And the Mefarshim explain is because the Ramban says this in his Hakdama. Very important Hakdama of the Ramban to Sefer Shemot. He says the Geulah is not complete until we return back to the way it was in the times of the Avot. That means we had, a period of time of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and the Imahot, and that was considered, the Gan Eden. That was the best time for the Jewish people. Not too many Jewish people. Maybe that's why it was the best time. But the point is that, the homes of the Avot were considered Merkava l'Shekhinah. You went into Abraham's house and you saw miracles on a daily basis. Sarah would bake the challah on Friday without using preservatives. And you came a week later and the challah is still fresh and it's still moist and maybe was still even warm. And then that's an open miracle. She would light the Nerot Shabbat on Friday, and you came a week later and you had Nes Chanukah. The Nerot are still lit. And if you walked by Avraham Avinu's home, you would see a cloud of glory over the house. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. He wants people to live a lifestyle where he can be resting in their homes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world not so he could be upstairs and we could be downstairs. He wants the people to create an abode for God to rest amongst us. Like the Midrash writes, שהקדוש ברוך הוא מתאווה להיות לו דירה בתחתונים. Borei Olam craves that he should have a dwelling, that he should have occupancy betachtonim. To live with the angels, it's easy to live with the angels. They didn't do anything to deserve it. Angels are angels, to live with the shamayim, that's no chokhmah. But to turn earth into shamayim, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires. And until Avraham Avinu came, nobody was really able to make the world a suitable and habitable place for the Shekhinah. As a matter of fact, until Avraham, all the world was doing actually was chasing HaKadosh Baruch Hu away from the world. When God created Adam, he was there. God was walking with Adam Rishon in Gan Eden. But then as the generations regressed, as we call it degeneration, they were degenerates. Every single subsequent generation would happen. Borei Olam said, I got to go back upstairs. And he went one level at a time until by the time you got to Avraham Avinu's generation, the Rambam writes, it was almost, there was no spirituality left in the world. And Borei Olam was back in heaven. And the purpose of the world was undone. Again, Hashem made the world why? In order that we should make a place that's fit for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to live. Nobody was fulfilling that purpose until Avraham Avinu came. And Avraham Avinu turned the elevator from going up to going down. And all of a sudden, Rabbi Abinu Alav Hashem starts to bring the Shekhinah down. And they call it Merkava the Shekhinah. Merkava means he was a vehicle, a chariot, in order that the Shekhinah can rest. And he taught that tradition to Yitzhak. When Yitzhak Avinu went into the tent with Rivka Imenu, the Pasuk says he had consolation. What was his consolation? He saw all the miracles that happened in his mother's tent happen in his new wife's tent, Rivka's tent. And the same thing with Yaakov Avinu and the Imahot. So after Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov reached that level of the purpose of the world, I'm sorry to tell you, the world then went into degeneracy again. Until you got to the level when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim, and forget about the 49th level of Tum'ah, and the Shekhinah went back up. So it's like Olim v'Yoredim. So we had to get back to that level. So even though we came out of Mitzrayim, that's not the end of the game. So we came out of Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim Galtanu, but now what? Where's the Shekhinah? That's no end game to have the Jewish people out of Egypt and God still 7 heavens all the way up and no connection with the people. That's true. During Kiryat Yamsuf, he came down for a quick revelation, but then he went back up. So the Jews would have to make an abode. They would have to make a home where the Shekhinah can rest amongst them. And the Ramban says that abode was called Mishkan. Like it says in the Pasuk, V'asulim Mishkan. V'asulim Mishkan, V'asulim Mikdash, whatever. V'asulim Mikdash. V'shachanti betocham. Make for me a Mikdash, and I will dwell in their midst. Betocho lo ne'emar, ela betocham. So the Mishkan was a great accomplishment. It brought the Shekhinah back down. Deja vu. That's French. The Rabbi will explain. Deja vu, what it was in the times of the Avot. So you hear the world reached a tikkun as it was in the times of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, where the main Shekhinah was in their homes. We were able to replicate it. Now the Geulah is complete. Until we're able to bring the Shekhinah back down, what's the benefit if Mitzrayim Ge'altanu, but Hashem is not Be'Geulah? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still in exile, and the Jewish people are out of captivity, so what did we get? We got free, but the Shekhinah is not. So therefore, the book has 2 parts. The first part of the book of Shemot, which is called Sefer Geulah, talks about the Geulah of the people. Mm-hmm. The second part of the book talks about the more important, the Geulah of the Shekhinah. That the Shekhinah now also was able to come out of its captivity and come back down, and we made a place, not only in the Mishkan, but obviously we had to be worthy that the Shekhinah can rest betocham amongst us. So hence the 2 parts of the book represent an entire complete picture. The physical redemption out of Egypt, and then the spiritual elevation to bring the world back to its rectification, to the way it was in the times of the Avot and the Imot. That's just by way of introduction to know exactly what Parashat Teruma is doing here. And some of you tomorrow morning, you're going to think that there's more to the Exodus. The Exodus is over. There's no more story. There's no 11th plague, and there's no postscript. We're done with it. So tomorrow morning, you start reading about the Mishkan, you might say to yourself, well, what are they doing over here? Sibir Geulah. It's misplaced. It's not misplaced. As a matter of fact, this was the whole goal. The whole goal was to get to this in order to bring the world to the rectification way, which is very, very flattering between the. If you think about it, what is God saying? I want to live with you. That's a big compliment. Borei Olam says, well, I don't want to live in heaven with the angels. Borei Olam has options to live wherever he wants. He could live in heaven, or he could live on earth. If you ask me, stay in heaven, Eden, the weather's always good. There's no Rishaim. The Rishaim are in Gehinam, but Borei Olam stays next to the Tzaddikim. It's a good existence, and that's Borei Olam's. That's the element Borei Olam would want to be with. He says, no, the angels. This is not my choice of residence. I really want to live with the people, but the people have to make me. They have to be hospitable. They have to make the world inviting, that when I come down, I have a place to be. So the Jewish people, through their service in building the Mishkan, were able to accomplish that. And that's really the Geulah. So the book ends in Sefer Vayakel Pekudeh, where it says, Shekhinah came down. That's it. Now we could say we did it. Mission accomplished. Are we clear, Rabotai, in the introduction? We didn't say anything yet. This is just Petichat Hechal in order to open up what we're going to come and talk about today. It's a very simple shi'ur. I have one question, I have one answer, then I'm going to wish you Shabbat Shalom. I'll be on my way, you'll be on your way, and that's it. We'll see you, Shabbat. That's it. Very easy. Here's my question. I just explained to you the goal. The goal was V'asulim Mikdash V'shachantim B'tocham. That's the goal that we're trying to accomplish in the next 4 parashiyot. Teruma, Tetzaveh, Vayakel, Pekudeh. And that's the tachlit. That's the goal and the purpose of the Exodus. And that's been the goal since the time God created the world. If you look in God's office in heaven, the mission statement, you go to an office outside the business, they have a mission statement. So all the workers, when they come in, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. So it says to create a widget that the people need and sell it for a profit. That's the goal over here, to make money and to make the customer happy. That's the goal. So everybody comes into the office every day, they see the mission statement. If you go into God's office, what does it say? The goal is V'asulim Mikdash V'shachanti B'tocham. That's the whole goal of the whole world. That's all I want. That's why I created the world. I had a house already. What else am I? But he created a second residence. And he prefers his second residence over the original residence. Of course. So it was the case. That's why we're in Florida. What do you think? So question. Before you get to questions, it's not questions. We didn't say anything. Funny. We didn't say anything. Questions. Second residence. We didn't say anything. Okay. So now we explain like this. Again, if I was writing Parashat Teruma, I would have written it like this. And God says to Moshe, and I would begin, state the goal, state the purpose, state the mission statement. Abotai, we are now involved in a project, in the initiative, one of the most grand and one of the most lofty initiatives ever embarked as a people, and that is we're trying to bring the world back to the way it was in the times of the Avot, and that's the goal. And then the question is, how do we get to that? Then I would say, you have to take donations, and we have to collect some money, collect some gold, collect some silver, and we're going to build this Mishkan. But why does the parasha begin? Take donations. That's not the goal, to take donations. The taking of the donations is a means to get the Mashur. So when the Torah is introducing the Mishkan, it should tell me the objective. Speak to the people, and here's the goal. Next pasuk, how are we going to get there? Oh, we're going to need some gold. We're going to need some silver. We're going to need some nechoshet. We're going to need some contributions. We're going to need some handiwork. We're going to need some volunteers. Instead, what does the Torah say? Speak to the people and tell them, this is what we need. We need money. Okay, that's an old speech. That's old derash. And then after we need the money, they say, oh, by the way, let me tell you why we need the money. Oh, let me make it simple so I can speak English. If I'm getting up to make an appeal, and I come along and I say, Botai, we need money. We need dollars. We need shekalim. We need pesos. We need dinarim. We need riyal. We need all currencies. And I'm talking for 15 minutes on all the currencies we need. And people say, what is he collecting for? What is he collecting for? What's the... And then at the end, the last minute, oh, Rabotai, I'm trying to build a mishkan. Well, you went backwards. You should start with Rabotai, we have a great project. Project Mishkan. Project Mishkan. To that end, we're going to need. Is it clear, the question? No, don't fake. Don't nod your head, and then when you walk outside, I don't understand the question. I don't know what he's talking about. That's an easy question. If you don't understand the question, speak now. If ever hold your peace, don't do me any favors by nodding your head like Sarah Mashkim, and you're coming home to say yes, he's right, and then on the way out to say, that's a silly question. I believe it's a very strong question. So let's begin the analysis. So the first item in the Mishkan, of course, is the Aron. We start with the Aron. The Aron is the ark. If you go to Perek Chafeh, Pasuk Yod, V'asu Aron, Aseh Shittim. And the Ramban points out that when it comes to all the other vessels in the Mishkan, it's written in singular. V'asita, v'asita, v'asita. Comes to the Aron, v'asu. V'asu is plural, which means the Aron becomes over here a group effort. And the Ramban's Lashon is Yahzor el Bnei Yisrael, v'asu is to the people. And he comes along and says, V'yitachen, שירמוז שיהיו כל ישראל משתתפים בעשיית הארון. When it comes to the Aron, exactly, you need full participation by the entirety of the people. Something that you don't need by the other items. By the other items, even the Mizbeach, the Menorah, the Kirashim and all that, you could commission one or two people. That's your job. Report back to us. You make a subcommittee. When the Kedashim are ready, when they're plated, when they're fixed, we're going to go to Moshe for quality control. We'll look at them, see if they're made to the spec, to proper is the size, and so on, and move on. When it comes to the Aron, that's already what we call a group effort. So he says, "Ba'avur shehu kadosh mishkene alyon." That's the main item. That's the main piece of furniture of the Bet Mikdash. V'sheyizku kolam laTorah. Since the Aron represents Torah, and Torah is not something that belongs to an individual, it belongs to the people. So for the people, in order to merit to have the zechut of the Torah, so they have to be connected. Why? When it comes to all the other vessels, it says v'asita. U'ba'aron ketiv v'asu. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shalom, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yavo HaKol v'yitasku be'aron. Let everybody come and participate with the construction of the Aron. She'yizku LaTorah. They should merit what the Aron represents. Aron represents Torah. Rabbi Bachia points out that why is it called an Aron? What's the shoresh of the word Aron? Shoresh is or, because what's in the Aron? The or. What's the or? Oraita. Oraita is the Torah. So therefore, a box that contains within it light, what do we call that? A light box. Not the light box that your wives check the lettuce for bugs. That's a different type of light box. The Aron is the real original light box that actually is containing inside of it the Aron, the Edut, the Oraita, the Torah Kedusha. Then he comes along and he says, how is it going to be possible that everybody's going to participate in the Aron? How is it just physically possible? So the man gives three ways. First of all, everybody has to make a donation. Interesting. When it came to all the other items, it was volunteer, and everybody could donate to what they want to donate. But when they went to collect, they said, make sure you give a little piece of gold, so you're part of the Aron. Or let's say God doesn't have gold, he doesn't have money. Ya'azor leBetzalel, When you see Bezalel building the Mishkan, walk up to him and say, listen, I want to, give me a job. Go, I want to help. It means physically. And thirdly, how many people, 600,000 people are going to help Bezalel? Then it doesn't become a help anymore. It becomes a distraction. It becomes interference. Oh, sheyichavenu ledavar. The Ramban says even the Kabbalah, that even at the time that they were building the Aron, if the people's intent, if their minds were focused to the Aron, so exactly, that's enough. Tremendous fadush. So there's three ways that Ramban says the people participated collectively. Either with their physical gold donations, either with their physical help to Bezalel, or mentally. They were building the Aron, the people's minds were on Aron. If you came to somebody during the time they were building the Aron, he told me, don't interrupt me now. My mind's on the Aron. Tomorrow, now we're thinking about the Aron. Why? Ba'asu. What does this teach us, Rabotai? The key item of the whole Mishkan was the Aron. Because the Aron represents Torah. So we have to focus primarily today on the Aron. What do we notice? We notice an anomaly that exists by the Aron that doesn't exist by any of the other kelim. And that is, Asita Aron Aseh Shittim. And now the Torah gives us the measurements. Amatayim Hetzi, Orko, Ve'ama Hetzi, Rohbo, Ve'ama Hetzi, Komato. So the measurements are 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. And what do all the measurements have in common? Half, half, half. No other vessel in the Mishkan has all half measurements. The Shulchan has a half measurement, but the rest of the measurements are whole measurements. So we can even learn from the measurements, Hidushim. That shows you how deep the Torah is. Which means if somebody comes into my house and they see my house, how big is your house, by the way? I tell them it's 40 by 100. Wow, 40 by 100. 40 is gematria, man, that's good. Well, so nothing to do. That's the lot. There's no Hidushim on this over. That's the size the city, when they parceled out lots. I cannot start giving you Hidushim, and then the guy walks to my bedroom. Right, is this bedroom 8 by 10? I don't believe it. And then you start saying, well, the 8 represents Brit Milah, and the 10 represents Asid the Bit. It has nothing to do. That's the size of the room. No. But when you come to build the Mishkan, since who made up these measurements? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you're right. You cannot do that in my house and start making Hidushim, even if I made it up. But I wasn't thinking of anything. I was just thinking to maximize the space. That's the more covenant. Actually, I was just trying to make my wife happy, to be honest with you. It's the only covenant. That's it. So all the measurements in homes are based on Shalom Bayit. However, when God is building his Mishkan and he says, the Aron, I want it to be 1.5, 2.5, whatever, you could have picked any measurement. So therefore, we're able to ask, what's these half measurements? So the Baal HaTurim says what he says. We'll read it. Kol middotav hayu shivurot. All the measurements of the Mishkan are broken. Hatzi. B'hatza'e amot. What does that teach you? ללמד שכל מי שלומד תורה צריך לשבור ולהשפיל עצמו. In order for Torah to be absorbed in the person, he has to be a half measure, which teaches us the inyan of humility. If a person thinks he's a whole measure, he thinks he's perfect, he has ga'ava, so then the light of the Aron will not be able to shine on the person. And therefore, the measurements of the Aron are teaching you one of the qualities that are needed as a prerequisite in order that the knowledge that's in the Aron will be able to be absorbed in the person's mind. And what is that? Hatzi. Anava. We know that already. One of the 48 ways to acquire Torah is humility, which is a key thing. And we know Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble of all men. That's why he was the greatest of all men. There's a direct correlation between Moshe's excessive humility and Moshe's excessive greatness in Torah. You could draw a corollary. There was a connection. And the more humble, the more great. And there was one rabbi in the Gemara, it says, Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah, he was uncomely. He was, I'm going to say the word, he was ugly. He didn't have a good appearance, but he was a great Talmid Chacham. And he said, somebody once asked him, one of the princess asked him, you have such glorious wisdom in such an ugly vessel. So he said, if I would be uglier, I would be even more smarter. Which means, and if the rabbis over there who are handsome, if they would be more uncomely, what's the explanation? Because they're humble. So there's an inyan of humility and Torah. That's a simple explanation of Balat Turim. So far, so good? Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you when we start. We didn't start yet. This is all preparing for the derash. But you see, some people, they get right to the, when you have deal, I'm going to teach you how to give a derash. When you tell a story, you don't go right to the punchline. You make a derash, you give a story, you go over here, you go over there. So you make it rich, so the people get their money's worth. And then when they're already thirsty and you're getting their attention, then you start to give them but some people, they come to tell the joke, they give the punchline right away. Even the whole item. So you shouldn't say, hey, the guy's talking for 20 minutes and he didn't say anything yet, which means he didn't give us the item yet. No, this is all, when you go to a restaurant, they bring out the steak first. No, they bring out the salad, they bring out some soup, bring out some, the steak's coming. You have to pace yourself. But they always bring out to whet your appetite. So that's what we do in Derash as well. That's just for the guys who are interested in knowing that the style. Look at the Kli Yakar. I'm not going to read it to you now, but the Shabbat is long. This week the Shabbat is at least 25 hours. Go read the Kli Yakar over Shabbat. And you're going to see over here, he brings Rimazim on all the measurements and the configuration of the Aron. Ayin Shah. Kli Yakar. It's a good homework. But we came today to bring to your attention what a rabbi that's called Zera Kodesh said. There was a rabbi, the Admon Mirokshitz, one of the Hasidic masters. He wrote a sefer called Zera Kodesh. And he weighs in on the Aron, its half measurements, the collectiveness of it, the Asu, and why does it come first before everything else? So I'm going to explain to you what he says. He says like this. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from the people? Why didn't he just create us in heaven and we go straight up to heaven? Why aren't there no direct flights from Kisei HaKavod to Gan Eden? Why do you have to make a stopover, a long stopover, in Olam Hazeh, and then go back up? It's a V. Go back up, down, and then you go back up. Why not? Why can't it be a straight line? So he explains that. Listen, because Borei Olam, he puts the person into a world of tests, of nisyonot, and he gives the person weaknesses and handicaps and things that he has to struggle with, because there's no greater item that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has pleasure in, and when a person breaks himself, when a person is able to overcome his desire and break his tendencies to Borei Olam, because why is he doing that? He's doing it for God. And that's the hardest thing for a person to do. The easiest thing for a person to do is act like he was born. A person's born with a short fuse, so therefore the easiest thing for him to do is get angry every day. And if somebody comes and says, why are you always getting angry? Hey, that's why I was born. Why is a man with black skin have black skin? Can a leopard change his hide? Of course not. So therefore, a person thinks that he's born a miser. A person's born with ga'ava. A person's born with a love of money. A person has a desire for women. These are all natural things. People have the desires. A person has yetzer hara. But the goal is, and the belief is, you can break it. You have to know that. And that's what Borei Olam wants. He created us with imperfections, with the specific intent to give you the ability to break your imperfection and break the thing that's the greatest test to you, your greatest weakness, can become the greatest gift you can give to God. Says the Sefer Ha'inuk. Where do we learn this from? Borei Olam created us, men I'm talking about now, with a foreskin, the orla. So what happens on the 8th day? We have a brit. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, what's the purpose of the brit? Why does God create us with an imperfection and then tell us to take it off? A person he buys a suit, and he sticks his hand in the suit, and there's all thorns. There's all thorns in the suit. He goes back to the guy in the store. He said, "What is this? I put my hand in. I got look. No, that you have to remove it. What do you mean you have to remove it? Don't put it there, so I would have to remove it. What did you put an impediment in my suit? Like the guy cuts his hand off. Oh, that's the minhag. You buy the suit before you put it on. You take out all the thorns that are in the wool, and then you put it on. You couldn't do that for me? No, we want you to do it. So, but we asked the Sefer HaChinuch, you knew we had to take off the orla. So why create us with the orla? Is that we should remove it? Just create us already removed. You're right. It'll put the mohels out of business. But let them become a sofer. Let them become a shochet. There's other jobs for them. The party planners are not going to like it. The caterers will not be happy in doing away with a major party. But that's not our concern. The concern is why create us with orla if it's going to be removed anyway. And what is the Sefer HaChinuch answer? He says something beautiful. He says God is sending a message to every person. Even though you were created with a handicap and a weakness, it's in your ability to bring yourself to perfection. Just like you were able to bring your physical body to perfection by removing the orla, so too all the other imperfections that you have and all the other weaknesses that you have, it is in your ability, just like you did on the 8th day, the orla was removed from you, you can do that as well. So that's almost like a mission. Borei Olam says, from the 8th day on, whatever you did on this day, they blessed them at the Brit Milah. Keshem shenichnas laberit, kach yikanes laTorah, ulmitzvot. We say, just like you entered the Brit, which is the lesson of the Brit is what? That you were able to bring yourself to perfection. So you should do that the rest of your life in all other areas. And you shouldn't come along and say, well, if I was born in Orla, I'm born with it, what can I do? What can you do? Cut it off. And if you're born with other challenges that are difficult to you, so you have to cut it off. Work on yourself. The Gaon of Vilna says, a person came into this world for one reason, to break his midot. He says this in Even Shelema. And then he rises to the language of the Gaon of Vilna. And if a person comes into this world and is not involved in breaking his character and perfecting himself, he says the following 3 words. Lama lo hayim. What is he doing? What is he doing? Why was he born? The whole purpose of this world is to perfect yourself. And that's what Borei Olam created. And that, as I'll show you from the Rambam, is one of the greatest pleasures that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has. More than anything, what does God need? Money? No. When Borei Olam sees Mesirut Nefesh, the person has a desire, he breaks it. Borei Olam says, he did that for me. That's the greatest gift you can give to Hashem. I once said at a wedding, at a wedding, at the end of the ceremony, they break a glass. Many reasons have been said why they break the glass. But I like to say at the weddings the following reason. When a person gets married, so one of the hardest challenges of marriage is you have to transition from being a bachelor. And a bachelor, if you look in the dictionary, the synonym for bachelor is selfish. That's what a bachelor means. It means a selfish person. Of course, you don't have to give to anybody. All the bachelor takes for himself. He takes for himself. All the money is for himself. He doesn't have to give anything. His father's paying all the bills usually. His mother makes all the food, and he just comes home like a melech, and he just takes everything. And when they ask him to do something, I'm too busy. I'm busy. What do you ask me for? Ask my brother. Ask my sister. So imagine the selfish guy. And all of a sudden now he gets married. Now all of a sudden he's got to give. All of a sudden his wife said, "Where's my allowance?" He never gave allowance in his life. All the kids, his whole life is taking allowance. Now all of a sudden he has to put his hand in his pocket. Now all of a sudden he has to shell out some money. All of a sudden now his wife tells him, make sure you're home by 7 o'clock. We have dinner. Nobody tells me what time to come home over here. I come home whenever I come home. There's no curfew. What is it over here? When the martial law, I have to come home at 7 o'clock. Now you have to deal with somebody. Now you have to, when you wake up in the morning now, you can't open the lights to get dressed anymore. You have to keep the lights closed so you don't wake up the Rebbetzin. You have to be careful. And you have to put the toothpaste back in the drawer now. You can't leave the toothbrush on the counter anymore. You can't even leave your dirty clothes on the floor like an animal anymore. Now you have to deal with it. So all of a sudden, you have to break your nature. That's why I said the pasuk says in the Torah, Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo ve'davak be'ishto. So the pasuk says, Al ken ya'azov ish. A person should leave his parents' house. Ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo ve'davak be'ishto. Now, what does that mean? Ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo. We don't leave our parents' house ever. What it means, you should leave the attitude that you had in your parents' house. In your parents' house, you were selfish. All you did is what? You're taking. Ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo. Leave that position of selfishness, ve'davak be'ishto. And now you have to turn into a giver. That means marriage is turning yourself from a taker into a giver. That's the whole thing of marriage. But that's a lot of work. You have to break yourself in a lot of different areas in order to extend yourself to somebody else. So in Hebrew, the word for nature is what? Teva. Teva. What's Teva mean? Your nature. At a wedding, we take a course. I've said many times, sometimes I was at a wedding in Manhattan. I'm the officiating rabbi. So I have to make sure that everything is proper. The officiating rabbi is like the pilot in the cockpit. He has to make sure that everything is good. He's not just there to make a beracha. He's there to make sure the ceremony is kedat Moshe B'Yisrael. So I always look on the table to see to make sure the wine is there, the besamim is there, and the glass. I have to bring the glass. Sometimes the party planners, because they're so smart, they put a light bulb. So I feel it. It's a light bulb. So I tell the party, but hey, what is this over here? No, this is okay. Who told you? What yeshiva did you learn in that you're telling me this is okay? I don't tell you how to party plan. You don't tell me how to Mesedeh Kedushin. I don't want a light bulb. I want a glass. So she tells me, what's the difference? Now you want a shiur now? Under the come to my house, I'll give you a shiur for 3.5 hours. What has to be a glass now? Now is not the time to ask questions. Now your response should be na'aziv and ishma. Go get me a glass, but it's the same thing. So she'll argue. Do me a favor. I can do it myself. Shiloho shel adam kemoto. Kemoto means like he's dead. So therefore, I get a glass. What's the difference? But maybe she's right. It's easier to break a light bulb, that's for sure. Explanation is because what's the purpose and the function of a kos? To receive. That's a bachelor. And therefore, the last thing before he becomes married is he has to break the kos.
Wow.
You're not a receiver anymore. Finished. You break that item of selfishness. And therefore, we break that you can't say that by a light bulb. On the contrary, a light bulb is purpose to give. So if you're going to break a light bulb, you're breaking the selflessness. You're doing the opposite. And kos is 86, and the word teva is 86. To teach the person to break your teva, you're breaking the kos. Kos gematria teva. We're telling the atan that's the purpose of marriage. That you have to work on yourself now, and usually if you start by the time you get married, usually it's too late. Usually you have to start working, much before in order to prepare yourself for those moments. And that's what Borei Olam desires, and that's what's the first mitzvah in the Torah, to get married, because that's the whole purpose of the world. Break us on through marriage. It's a great exercise and training to overcome your weaknesses. Oh, so if that's the case, says the Zerach Kodesh. This is beautiful. He writes, "Va'asu Aaron aseh shitim." The word shitim is wood, acacia wood. Huh?
לא נותן פרי, לא נותן פרי.
Okay, it's not too bishvat. What do you care for this? So now the explanation is like this. Says the Rav, the whole goal of learning Torah and studying Torah and connecting yourselves to Torah, because Torah is the force that's able to break the nature. If you think you're going to do this alone by reading some self-help book, guy's going to go to Barnes and Nobles and you're going to read all these secular books, self-help, how to overcome. If it doesn't have Torah in it, it's not going to work. Barati yetzer hara, barati lo Torah tevalin. Don't look for new, secular or synthetic substitutes for the Torah. There's only one method here. Now, the Gemara says, if the yetzer hara is made out of rock, nimawa. What does that mean? Even if the he's so set in his ways, like a rock, you can't change the guy. Guy's like he's hard as a rock. The guy, you can't move him. You're right. Take some Torah, pour it on it. All of a sudden you see Nimawah. The guy becomes soft. As we see, the people that start to learn Torah, they transform, they change. But if you think that, no, I'll just do some, Dale Carnegie, I'll read a book, and I'll read another book from some other guy that's an inspirational speaker, and another guy that has, some good ideas. He speaks at the conventions and at different type of, business motivational gatherings. Barati yetzer hara, barati Torah tevalin. God says, I created the yetzer hara. You're going to tell me how to get rid of him? I'm the manufacturer. So who knows better than the manufacturer? God forbid. One time, the Israelis, they went after this guy, Mash'al. They went into Lebanon, wherever they went, and they tried to kill him. They put poison in his ear. Anyway, it was a foiled attempt. They caught the guys who did it, and this guy, he was in a coma, and they said, you better send us the antidote. So Israel had to send the medicine that neutralizes the poison, because whenever you make a poison, you always make an antidote first, just in case the wrong guy gets it, you want to save him. Anyway, they sent them the antidote. Why'd they call Israel for the antidote? Because they made the poison. Why don't you call China? What are they going to give you now? Are they going to give you COVID medicine? What are they going to give you? They make the guy more sick. The point is, the one that creates the poison, he knows exactly the antidote. And sure enough, they flew it on a private jet to Jordan. It was Jordan, exactly. And they gave it to him. Sure enough, he's alive still. He survived it. So what Elam says, I created this poison over here called the yetzer hara. So you're going to go tell me now Barnes and Noble has the refuah? Good luck. Go try. I hope the yetzer hara doesn't kill you by the time you finish reading all the books in Barnes and Nobles. I'm giving you the antidote. The antidote is what? Torah. Finished. Barati yetzer hara. That's it. So you got to learn. Learning has the ability to break a person. There's no other option. Remember that. And therefore, the Rav learns like this. If you take the word shittim, Shin, Tet is 309. Yud is what? 10. That's 319. And 40 is Mem. So shittim equals 359. Of course, that number doesn't mean anything to you. Says the Rab, shittim is gematria Satan. Shittim is gematria Satan. And you know why we call the Satan shittim? Because based on the Gemara Sotah, page 3, Gemara there says that anytime a person makes a sin, for sure, nichnas bo ruach shitut. It's temporary insanity. To rebel against God, it's ruach shtut. So therefore, anybody that's involved in Avera is involved in Maaseh Shittim. You're involved in Shtut. So therefore, the Satan is also 359. Satan, Sin, Tet, Nun. Satan, Gematria, Shittim, because Maaseh Satan is Maaseh Shitut. But what's the advice? So he says, how do you say advice in Hebrew? So therefore, you say Eitzah. So it says, V'asu Aron. Make for yourself an aron. What's the aron? That's the light box that holds the Torah. And you know what the aron really is? Hatzeh. It's the etzah. It's the advice. Shittim. Hatzeh shittim. It's the advice to overcome maaseh shtut of the Yetzer Hara. Hatzeh shittim. That's the depth of hatzeh shittim. You learned hatzeh shittim, a piece of wood. Okay, good luck.
With no food.
With no food. But now we're learning Atzeh Shittim differently from the Zera Kodesh. Atzeh Shittim is Eitzah. Listen, somebody comes to the Rabbi, my Yetzirah is taking over. I don't know what to do. I need Eitzah. Atzeh Shittim? Yes, I need Atzeh Shittim. I need Atzeh Shittim. And the answer is V'asu Aron. V'asu Aron. Make for yourself. And this is something everybody must do. There's nobody that can come in the world and say, Baruch Hashem, I'm perfect. You had a brit milah? Yes, you're not perfect. No, the guy said, I was born mahul. Okay, maybe the guy was born mahul. We have to deal with that guy over there. That's a rare case over there. But even that guy needs a hatafat dam. We got to do something. So therefore, why do you need the Torah? So look what he says. All the midot of the Aron are what? Broken. What is a midah? A measurement. But what is also a midah? Exactly. And therefore, it's teaching you the only way to break your midot, broken midot, to break yourself. The only way to break yourself is V'asu Aron. That's the Atzeh Shittim. And what will the accomplishment be? It'll have the ability to break your midot, to break the glass at the wedding. It'll shatter your midot. You'll be able to change. That means the only way to reach transformation, to become different, which is Shabirat HaMidot, which the Gaon the Vilna said, if you're not involved in that, you're involved in nothing, is the Aron. So that's why it comes first, the Aron, because that's the goal. If you're not involved in this, so what are you doing? A guy once came to the shiur of Rabbi Yehuda Ades. Oh, it's later.
We got time.
You're making the case for
You have
everybody.
time, I have to go. What do you have time to say? I can't the babysit you the whole day now. It's the babysit.
You're making the case for everybody participating in Parashat.
Not much. Came to babysit. So now, the explanation over here is, so the guy, Rabbi Ades, was giving a shiur on Kaas. Anger. So a 75-year-old guy came after him and said, this shiur doesn't talk to me. Why not? He said, because I'm a Kaasan. This means so it should talk to you more than anybody. No. I was born that way. So Rabbi Ades said, what a shame. The guy doesn't know. 75 years, he thought because his father was angry and his grandfather was angry, it's from the Shevet HaKasanim, he thought that he's predisposed. He says, Havad, the guy didn't realize he could change. How much misery would he saved himself if he realized that he'd be able to? And the only way to overcome would have been through the study of Torah. Atzeh Shittim. That's the Etzah against Shittim. So now watch. Now we go back, Rabuta. We go back. There's a Rambam. The Rambam is in Hilchot Isurei HaMizbeach. Perek Zayin. He's talking about over here the different types of menachot, flour, meal offerings that you can bring. ומאחר שכולן כשרים למנחות, למה נמנו? There's all different types of menachot, but they're all kosher. So the Ramban says, if they're all kosher, what does the Torah have to list them all? So he says, no, you have to list them כדי לידע יפה שאין למעלה ממנו. So you have to know that there are better ones. There's more expensive ones. Vashaveh, vapahot. You have to know the value. There's certain ones that are more expensive than menachot, and certain that are cheaper. Now watch what he says. Sharotzeh lezakot atzmo. The person wants to have a merit. Yachuf yitzro. Let him break his yetzer hara. V'yarchiv yado. And let him be generous. V'yavi korbano. Which means he doesn't just say you need to know the level of the korban, so you know to bring the best. What's the purpose of bringing the best? Why is bringing the best? Because it's more expensive. Because usually people, when they have something, they don't want to give it, keep it for themselves. So by giving the best korban to Hashem, what is it going to do? To Hashem, it's going to do nothing. Trust me, Hashem doesn't care if you give him a fat animal or you give him a couple of grains of flour. To Hashem is the same thing. Hashem owns the whole world. He cares if he gets a big animal or a small. But what is it going to do to the person? The Rambam's Lashon is Sharosel lizkot atzmo yachuf yitzro, to break his yetzer. Because normally the yetzer says what? Keep the best for yourself. Give God the secondary, like Cain in heaven. That's what you're giving to God. You're giving God, you broke yourself. That's the best korban you can give. Anytime a person has a desire and he puts his head down, or he closes his mouth, or he doesn't eat, or he doesn't react, you can't imagine. That's the greatest thing that you can deliver. Yachuf et yitzro. Otherwise, what does Hashem want? This is what he wants. Now we go back to the original question. What's the hardest part of the building of the Mishkan?
Collecting money.
Hazak Baruch. Not the collecting of it. I guess you're right. The donating of it, and more than the donating of it, but actually paying it. Once the money is collected, I should build it. But what is the energy that builds the Mishkan? It's the Mesirut Nefesh of the people. They just made a lot of money. Now he asks them, give us your zahab, give us your kesef, give us your nechoshet. Most people, a lot of people I should say, they're possessive of their money. So when it comes to the Mishkan, nechoshet, there's the copper, but you have gold. There's tuition, future, college, all this business over here. And therefore, they give to God, but they give the minimum. Borei Olam says, I want to see if you can break yourself. If you can afford the zahab, give the zahab. If you can give the kesef, fine, give the kesef. The hardest thing is to give. So therefore, when the Torah begins its discussion, it doesn't start V'asudi Mikdash. V'asudi Mikdash, of course, is the result, but that's not the goal. You know what the goal is? Teruma, break yourself. Get together, overcome your desire. If you do this, it'll result in V'asudi Mikdash. But Borei Olam says, I'm telling you what I desire. That means the desire is what? The actual performance of the mitzvah of tzedakah in this case, or for that matter, any mitzvah where it hurts you, where you had to overcome a certain, and therefore that's what God takes. Borei Olam says, and that's why Borei Olam mentions it. If you look in the book of Vayakel, in Vayakel where it reviews, what was the pasuk say? In Vayakel it says, Vayakel Moshe et kol adat bnei Yisrael, and he tells them, Zeh hadavar shetaseh ki me'etechem teruma, kol nediv lev yevieha, zahab v'chesed v'choshet v'chelev v'argaman, orot elim odamim shemen lamaor besamim. Nowhere over here does it say V'asudi Mikdash. In Vayakel, let's tell you, that was the objective. The objective was to see if the people were able to break their materialistic desires, their physical pleasures, and to give, even if it hurt. That's what Borei Olam, that's what we receive now. If you do that, of course, the result was going to be the but what did Borei Olam crave in this whole exercise of the building of the Mishkan? The process. The process is the key. My question originally was, just tell us about the end. I thought originally process is not purposeful. The process is just to get there. But now you're learning the journey as well is what Hashem desires. I'm saying again to make it clear. My question was on a wrong premise. My question was based on, what are you wasting your time on the journey for? The purpose is V'asudi Mikdash, so collecting the money is just the way you get there. No, it's a means within itself. The means within itself. Borei Olam saw the people that just came out of Mitzrayim and they were working on their madregot and they were overcoming this. That's why, for example, the Or HaKadosh, when he lists, he says the Torah lists Zahav, Kesef, Nechoshet. It lists, I don't know how many, 15 or 16 different.
13.
Or 13, I didn't count. 15.
Some people say 15, some people say 13.
Okay, so that's inflation. But the point is, if you look at the list, the last item on the list is what? Avnei Shoham. The stones.
Yes.
So Rahim HaKadosh asks, why is that the last on the list? So he comes along and he says something beautiful. Look what he writes. The ordinary. According to what it says in Yomah 75, She'ananim hayu mevi'im et avnei shoham. Where did the avnei shoham come from? These rocks? Where did they get these special stones? It says the clouds somehow brought these stones from a remote area, and it rained these stones. Listen, in those days before Amazon, they had the clouds. The clouds would deliver a material, just like the clouds deliver the man. So they needed these stones. They needed it for the Mishkan. Where are you going to get it from? So the Ananim came. So he says, Im ken mishulchan gavoa mevi'im belo torah v'yigi'ah. There was no Torah. There was no exertion. They didn't have to work to give it. And therefore, put that the last on the list. It might have been the most precious, but since it didn't take any effort, and where was it coming from? It was coming from heaven. Nobody was out of pocket. It wasn't like somebody had to go to their bank and take money that they had. They didn't go into the jewelry box and have to take their jewelry. It was a windfall. It came from heaven. And okay, anyway, we didn't take it yet into our possession. Come on, take it. But Hakadosh says the most expensive of all the items was the least important because it's not the item. What's what I'm looking for? We said today, the effort. He's looking for the person to break his desire, for the Hatzi Midah. And therefore, the item that had the easiest donation to give is the least significant. And the donation that's the hardest to give is the most significant. That's why the Baal HaTurim says, we'll conclude with this. Pasuk writes, Zahav v'chesef u'nchoshet. And the rabbis learn that there's 3 levels in people that give tzedakah. One guy's a gold. Ever see in the journal, the gold guy? Gold, $5,000. And kesef is $2,600. And then the Hoshet is the guy in the back, one line, $26. They put his business card over there. Hoshet, fine. So now the Baal HaTurim says there's 3 types of givers. One guy, he gives when he's healthy. That guy, we call him Zahav. Zeh hanoten bari. There's another guy, when he's healthy, he doesn't give. When he starts to get sick, God forbid, or he starts to see things are getting dangerous, so they tell him, oh, sakana, give Rabbi Meir Balanes, give the rabbi, kol el chatzot, kesef, rashit tevot, kishiro'eh sakana potayach. And then there's another guy, even the sakana, he don't care, he's not giving nothing. Only when he's on his own deathbed. He can't even give himself. He has to tell other people to give. Nechoshet, netinat chole she'omer tenu. The giving of a sick man that says to other people to give. Now, I always understood that the reason why it's a lower level is the following. When a guy's giving, when he's sick, why is he giving?
Yours.
Exactly. So that's not, that's really self-preservation.
It's not giving, it's taking.
Exactly. They tell him, if you give, you're gonna, so therefore.
Quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo, guy's getting something. Of course you're gonna give. Shalom says, what won't the person give to save his life? So therefore, it's a giving, but actually you're putting from one pocket to the other pocket. You're giving the tzedakah so you can live, so you can make more money. So that's not a missing an image. But who's the best giver? He's healthy. So what's motivating him to give? He has all the money. He doesn't need any reason for it. He doesn't need stakat tatzim mavet. He doesn't have any sakana. Everything is. What's the motivation then? That's the hardest to give. When you don't have for what? Usually a guy gives me a check for kol hatzot. There's 42 refuah shlema. He gave me a whole grocery list. He gave me instructions. For $52, I have 52 instructions. So therefore, okay, very good. But what motivated the another guy gives me $1,000? What is this for? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? What do you want for it? I want nothing for it. Baruch Hashem, I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm doing it. Wow. That you have to break yourself to give the money, even though you're getting nothing in return. That's why he's Zahav. There's no ulterior motives behind this giving. That's much harder giving. It's much easier to give. It's much easier for us to give at a Chinese auction where I can win. So I like that type of tzedakah. I'm gonna be a raffle ticket. My raffle, give me 100 raffles because there's a chance I can win $10,000. Even if I don't win, but at least listen. Not every stock you win money also, but it's an investment. But just to give with my name, how big are the letters going to be? What's the what's the plaque? I'm not saying you shouldn't give in those situations, of course. But if we're talking about a gold giver somebody does and that. I'm going because Hashem wants me to give, and it's the hardest to give like that. But you're getting nothing back. You're getting nothing back, and you really didn't have to give for your own birth. You're just giving for the other guy, so he can have a benefit. You take nothing in return. Borei Olam says that's a giving. That's a tzedakah. That's gold, and that's why the Parashat begins not with the result, with the process, with the journey, because that's the whole goal. And don't think that this doesn't apply to us, because you're going to say, well, it's a shame because we don't have a Mishkan today. Look how the end of the construction, what does the Pasuk say? Asuli Mikdash, Kechol asher ani mareh otecha, whatever I'm showing you, et tabnit Mishkan, et tabnit kol kelam, all the structures that I showed you, and the measurements and all the construction, v'chen ta'asu. You should do it. Rashi says, "V'chen ta'asu ledorot." Ledorot. Ledorot means whatever I just told you, you should do it for the generations. What are the generations? The building of the Mishkan is not a mitzvah ledorot. The building of the Mishkan is a once in a lifetime item. What's it ledorot? She's saying the principles that are set forth over here, the principles that you just learned from the Mishkan, what Hashem wants. Hashem wants ultimately ba'asuli mikdash v'shekati betocham. That's the goal. And how does that happen? The journey. Whenever a person overcomes something that is difficult for him, you have to know you have just built a Mishkan. You have just built a Mishkan. Everybody can build their own Mishkan in their own lives. And then you can become also a Merkabah, the Shekhinah, like the Avot. If that's the case, just like Sefer Geula is predicated on this concept, so too the Geula that we're anticipating B'ezrat Hashem in our time, which we'll see with our own eyes, is also predicated on this concept. That Borei Olam says, Ba'asuli Mikdash, but put that aside. The main thing is, Teruma, Atzeh Shitim. The Etzah to overcome the Shitim is Hatzi Midot. To break the midot, to break the glass at the wedding, to go from a giver, from a taker into a giver. And that's what Borei Olam does.